I've probably posted 3 or 4 things on Gab this week of the government shutting down somebody, somebody hacking into their accounts and stealing their digital currency. And every time I post the article and I say, you don't get it, it's digital, ... and currency. And I've just been doing that every time. Guys, if you don't get it, it's digital and it's currency. If you don't understand the appeal.
When you hear that one dude, Sailor, is like, well, people have been stealing gold for centuries. And I'm like, yeah, well, and then they act like Bitcoin's unstealable or unlosable. And like, there's been some epic collapses of exchanges, like the one from Japan. Like that was that one had like most of the market share for the exchanges. And it just, tons of people lost Bitcoins in that disaster. Like, it's like, okay, it's cool. You like it. That's fine. It's okay to like it. I don't have a problem with anyone who likes it. But stop acting like it's perfect. It's not even close.
Not even close. Welcome to Reformgelical, where the Reformed and Evangelicals meet. My name is Matt Williams. I'm hosted by AD Robles. AD is doing chipper as always, although I don't see a cool little name tag this time.
Yeah, I was running late, and I didn't want to be late to the show. And I was trying to think of something, and I didn't want to do the crypto gold thing again. I just couldn't think of anything. I'll do better next time.
Thank you. We have high standards now.
We do.
No, not more on digital. I just like making fun of people that think there's some perfect idea out there because it's just not true. Mark, don't worry about it. But thank you, everyone. So many questions. So many conversations, people watching from the beginning. I really appreciate you guys meeting with us. We live stream every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. I had a big mistake. I did a big podcasting mistake yesterday.
Ooh, what'd you do?
For the show that got released. I decided on a whim that I wasn't going to do my normal show, but I was going to live stream Joe Biden's the joint sessions State of the Union address.
Okay.
And I was basing it off of when the White House was going to say it was going live.
Okay.
Which was 8:30, I think it was. And I was doing the show, waiting for it, and then it wasn't coming on. Like they started the stream, but it was just like the generic, thumbnail that you have before you start a broadcast.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like making all these jokes that, even Biden's recording's late and they can't get the Biden's recording and hologram to show up on time. And then I started thinking on my feet and using the topics I was going to talk about instead before trying to fill in. And then it got through about 20 minutes and I realized it wasn't even programmed to start until 8 or 9 o'clock. And I was like, oh. But I used the show anyways.
They call that a self-own. In the business, you owned yourself.
For sure. And I thought it was so funny. I just used it. So the whole show today on my other show is Joe Biden's thumbnail and me talking about other things for the most part.
Very good. Very nice. I like it.
But the highlight was, I don't know if you knew this, but only 11 million people watched the State of the Union.
Oh, yeah. I saw that.
Did you see that?
And, but listen, he's the most popular president that's ever been elected. I don't know if you knew that.
I've heard something about it. I heard he got a lot of votes.
He got a lot of votes, and no, what are you talking about? What are you, conspiracy theorist? He got a ton of votes, and he's the most popular president of all time, and he's the smartest man of all time, and he's a uniter as well. We need to recognize these facts.
The great reconciler.
The great reconciler.
Sure. He's so perfect. He might be digital.
He might be. He's more perfect than Bitcoin. That's impressive. If you have Bitcoin and Joe Biden, and you're deciding who's better, clearly it's Joe Biden.
Clearly. Mark is asking, was it worth watching Biden's little speech propaganda? Absolutely not.
Easy answer.
It was, absolutely. It was all of the normal stuff, the normal communist spending programs, and they want to add 4 years to public schools, so they want your kids longer in life.
Yeah, of course.
The one thing that was interesting to me that didn't get any play at all, he said that we the people meant us the government, which was a juxtaposition. That
we the people means us the government.
Right.
Yeah, that sounds legit. I mean, what else could it mean? Listen. We all understand that the most important people in any society are the government. And so clearly, why wouldn't they be writing about themselves?
Mm-hmm. Obviously. But then you start really thinking about like the founders and the Constitution and what it talks about, we the people. You start to realize, oh yeah, they are a bunch of communist totalitarians.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, because listen, it's not, listen, if there's the point of the Constitution, if there's any point in the Constitution, it's this. If it doesn't explicitly grant this power to the federal government, it reserves it for the federal government. So if it doesn't explicitly grant the power to the federal government, it is by default reserved for the federal government. That's if there's one lesson in the Constitution, it's that.
Yes. Exactly.
Would you agree? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, exactly. It's just the federal government gets everything, right?
Of course.
Definitely no other say to anybody else.
No. Well, okay. There are a few things that the states can do. Let's just be honest. Okay. The states get some stuff, but everything else is reserved for the federal government, clearly.
Right. Yeah. I thought taxation without representation was a negative thing, but it turns out it's very positive. That's what they were going for. They were excited about that aspect of English rule. So they were just trying to incorporate that into what we have today. Very funny.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. Mark says James White was on fire today. I don't watch his show that much because I get really warm just seeing his sweaters that he always wears.
Oh
those really ugly
hard to see. I get warm and I also get itchy because that's itchy.
Yeah, it's like walking through a cobweb. You're like, oh gosh. So yeah, that's a bit much.
Well, what's he saying, Austin? Let us know because I haven't watched James White in a while.
It was Mark. I don't even see Austin on here. I went to lunch with Austin. He was coming in town for some vacation time. And let me tell you, he let me have it about chemtrails. He let me have it. And then also, I got a very long email from a Bergencat. I don't know how you say their last name. Bergenkate. Yeah. So if you ever have a podcast or some kind of medium that has a lot of listeners and you're curious about how many pilots listen to your show, talk about chemtrails. You'll hear from every single one of them. I promise you. So last time we were talking about Bill Gates and how he has a plan to roll out to spew out
chemtrails.
He wants to
do chemtrails.
Sun blocking, chemtrails. He wants to save the world or destroy it. I can't decide.
You got to reflect the sunlight back to the sun because the sun is trying to kill us.
Right. Yeah. Exactly right. And one of the things I said was that I think there is something up to that because there's a clear difference between what I think are contrails, the clouds that just disappear, and the chemtrails or whatever they're spraying that lingers around and turns into clouds. Like, obviously, there's something different about it. And I'll be the first to admit it. I don't know that much about it. And I probably shouldn't have said as much as I did. But I got a whole list of why that happens. And their arguments, all the pilots that emailed me this last week over this.
Nobody emailed me. I guess I have a different audience than you.
See, maybe you're onto something. I give out my email. You give out your P.O. box and a phone number.
Yeah, maybe the mail's in the system right now. We'll see. I'll let you know.
You're going to get charged for an extra P.O. box from all the mail that you got from this. I'm telling you. But they were saying that basically that there is an explanation for it, that depending on the humidity, depending on air temperatures, and all those different things. One of them from Canada was saying that even when it gets -40, which how are you living in Canada still that goes to -40? That it happens with cars, that you'll see the contrails that will freeze and create clouds in the streets, which makes Canada seem even more miserable. But I just wanted to say that because I know AD and I both take this really seriously. We don't want to lead you astray. So there seems to be a good explanation for why there's sometimes the clouds disappear, sometimes they linger and turn into clouds. It has to do with humidity, altitude, and all that stuff. But it doesn't take away from the article where Bill Gates admitted they were doing this.
Right. So, well, yes, that's right. So, okay, fine. There's contrails. Great. So they want to do chemtrails, and they probably are already doing chemtrails. Let's just be honest about that one.
Yeah.
Here's how you don't get emails, Matt. You just say stuff like probably. They probably are doing them right now. There seems to be. Here's another one. Seems to be. There seems to be a difference, in my opinion, between the chemtrails and the contrails. in my opinion. See, all you got to do is add those little things to the end of it. You don't get any emails.
Yeah, we might as well just be lawyering. To the best of my knowledge, I believe the truth to be.
To the best of my knowledge, of course I remember the zigzag crisscrossing patterns of the contrails up there. Of course, to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah. Oh man. One of my favorite things about 2020 and 2021 is I seriously have no shame about like talking about conspiracy theories and all this stuff. None whatsoever.
Every idea's time has come.
Everyone, exactly right.
Dude, I get messages, man. So I mention a bunch of conspiracy theories every now and then in my show. And the other day, I did a video about con artists, and in the thumbnail, I had a picture of Buzz Aldrin, but I didn't mention him at all in the video. It was just a video about other con artists. But so people were like, "Hey, why'd you have Buzz? What are you saying? What are you doing?" And in the video that I had put up, it's a video of Buzz Aldrin being interviewed by a little girl. And the little girl asks an obvious question. Hey, how come we haven't been back to the moon? And Buzz Aldrin gets all weird. He's like, that's not a little girl's question. And then he says, that's my question. And it's been my question for a long time, but I think I know. Because we didn't go. He just says that. He's like, we didn't go to the moon. That's why we haven't been back. We just didn't go. And you know, he kind of looks a little crazy, and he looks like he's lost his marbles a little bit. But it's a very interesting interview. And so I put that up there because I listen. I think that's bizarre. I think that's weird. If you've ever watched any of the interviews with people that have gone to the moon, you know, Neil Armstrong and stuff like that, it's just they're all weird. Have you ever seen the testimony of them talking about how they walked on the moon?
No, I haven't. Should I?
Matt, you should watch it. It's so weird, Matt. Let me just say this. I'm listen, call me conspiracy theorist, but I think I think certain things about that story are weird. So you would think that if you walked on the moon and you're testifying in front of Congress, that you'd be pumped. It was like, dude, I was up there and it was amazing. I jumped like 6 feet in the air and it was awesome. Like, no. They look like their cat just died. All three of them are like this. And they're like, you know, eventually it was going to happen. I mean, human ingenuity and determination. And it's just a real good privilege. And it's just so weird. Like, why are they like that? It makes no sense. I'm not saying it proves anything, but I'm saying you got to be honest enough with yourself to say, hey, that's weird. Yeah. Why are they acting that way? Why is Buzz Aldrin acting this way? It doesn't make any sense. You ever seen Astronauts Gone Wild?
No.
So Astronauts Gone Wild is a series of videos that astronauts, sometimes if you just ask them questions like that, like, hey, you didn't really go to the moon. Come on, let's be honest. Like they just attack you. Like they punch you in the face.
No.
They act insane. And I think it's weird. I think it's weird. So anyway, this is how you get away with saying conspiracy theory stuff. You just put it out there and you say, you know what? I don't know a lot about this. I just have some questions. And then you don't get any emails.
Yeah, right. That's now how
everything's alleged. Everything's alleged. Everything's in my opinion. Everything's like, I don't know.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It is interesting. And I would have a lot of questions about, I'm trying it out right now, of why we never did go back to the moon.
We can't go back. That's the story. We can't go back. We don't know how to do it.
It's like in any invention, like the car from the carriage, what happens? You make one, and it's a smashing success, and then you do it over and over again until you phase out old things.
You make it better. You add to it. You change what didn't work.
Yeah, you go to the moon once, and we're like, we're good. We're good.
Yeah, you go. Technically, went a handful of times, and then the story is we destroyed the technology and all of the data about it because we were in a budget crunch and we taped over the tapes that we had the data on. If you're not honest enough with yourself to say, "Hey, that's weird. Something stinks there. That doesn't make any sense." Yeah. If you can't even ask yourself that, I got nothing for you. See, that's how you avoid these questions because that's what I just said is very reasonable. That didn't happen that way. That's bizarre. I don't know what that means, but that's crazy, and there's something funny about that.
We know the government doesn't care about a budget, first of all.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So, right. Yeah, they just have, dude, the amount of money stuff going on right now is just so insane. I saw you tweeting about some of that stuff.
Oh my gosh, Joe Biden,
the zero hedge stuff.
Oh, zero interest rates. Oh,
zero.
Joe Biden yesterday in his speech, $6 trillion of additional spending on top of the trillions we're already spending every year.
Why not? It doesn't matter.
Let it ride, baby.
Just let her go. Keep going. By the way, the inflation's transitory. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, dude. I forgot who was posting this on Gab. It was so good. It was what's his name? He's been on the show before. Eric Kahn. And he one of his memes, it was so great. He's like, I went to the store to check to see how high lumber prices were, and they were this high, and it was a picture of Snoop Dogg.
That was awesome. Yeah.
I love this so much.
So crazy. So crazy. I got in trouble. Well, I got ridiculed for talking about lumber prices. And the guy goes to me, AD, it's totally normal. It's supply and demand. Duh. Ever heard of it? I'm like, yeah. No, I get it. It's supply and demand. It's still not normal.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's supply and demand. Also, Google, Microsoft, and Amazon made like $50 billion this last quarter all by themselves in profit. Supply and demand, totally normal. It's totally normal that there's no other companies competing for $50 billion of profit every year. Supply and demand, right?
It's some crazy stuff out there. It's a crazy world. Here's what I think, though, because, a lot of people would say, okay, well, there's a lot of success that comes from all this money printing and all the rates and interest rates, and low rates. And all. But the thing is, like, it's all artificial. And in some regards, some people do benefit. But think about how much more robust and real and long lasting our economy would be if the government didn't get involved in these shenanigans. If they just let people do what they do. Like, it's a shame because whatever gains we're getting, you don't know what could have happened had the government not done these things, had not intervened in these ways. Like, we all just see, okay, great, Tesla's up to 900 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, okay, that's fine, but you act like if the government didn't intervene with asset prices, that no good would have happened. No, you have no idea what would have happened. Mm-hmm. And probably a lot better things would have happened, and they would be longer lasting. They wouldn't be these bubbles that just pop, out of nowhere and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's just so crazy. And I think a lot of people are waking up to the game that's being played. And, there's a lot of people that are like trying to get those last gains in and stuff like that. But I just caution people, like, that there's shenanigans here and it can't last. I would suggest it might be worth maybe leaving a couple of percentage points on the table to make sure you keep what you have. Right. When this bubble pops, it's going to be violent. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe start investing in that volatility index, UXVI, I think is a trading symbol.
Yeah. Or doing something to protect yourself. Absolutely.
Yeah. That got hit the 52-week low today after Biden said he's going to spend an extra $6 trillion and the Fed is issuing zero interest bonds. Like, that's not implying volatility to you. Like, there's no growth strategy. We're spending more money than we've ever spent before. Yeah. There's no like growth plan. And the volatility index is at the lowest level in 52 weeks. Yep. Like, obviously this isn't right. This isn't the free market working.
Right. And the thing is, it's like, and the way they scam a lot of people, it's like, oh, we could pay for it. We just raise taxes. But the thing is, like, when you raise taxes, you never make as much as you think you're going to make because you alter people's behavior. So I was listening to Peter Schiff the other day, and he lives in Puerto Rico, and, Puerto Rican government, they try all kinds of scams. So what they tried was a inventory tax. So they said, okay, we're going to tax inventory. So whatever inventory you have, we're going to tax at the end of the year. So they thought, okay, this is going to raise certain billions of dollars. That's great. But of course it doesn't, because companies are smart. People are smart. So they're like, okay, so we're not going to have any inventory. So we're just going to, we won't keep any inventory. Then we avoid the tax. And they never make as much as they think they're going to because people change their behavior. Right. Not on the flip side of that, when you give extra incentives for things, it always costs more than you think it's going to cost. So here's what happens. You say, okay, great. We're going to give, because of the pandemic, we're going to give people an extra $300 a week of unemployment. Okay, great. And it's going to cost $10 billion, whatever it is. It's always going to cost more because people that are on the bubble there, they're going to say, okay, so I can make maybe a little less not working or a little more working. And they're like, well, I'm going to not work. You know what I mean? It's worth it to me to not work. And so it always ends up costing a lot more too. So this is the problem with the government. Like they do things and they think it's going to work out great and it never does. And so what do they end up doing to fill the gap? Well, they just print more money. There you go.
There's a great story about command style economies. They raised the minimum wage here in Florida, and then also you have the unemployment increase still and things like that. There's a McDonald's franchise owner who's paying people $50 just to come in and interview.
I saw that.
Because they're making the calculations that you're just saying. Why would I go interview and get a job when I will make more not working?
Yeah.
So people are rational. They're always going to act rationally.
So think of this. So even if what you're getting is less, think about all the things you're not spending money on: transportation, clothes for work, daycare, whatever it is. And so the company ends up having to pay a lot more to get someone to come off of the doles when you start subsidizing in that ways. It's just really preposterous is what it is. Yeah, Edward's asking me, when do I think the bubble will burst? I can't make that kind of prediction. I'm not smart enough. And I don't know. Everything's already irrational. So it's like, could this last another 2-4 years? I have no idea. It's already insane. So sure, it could probably last more. I don't know.
I think the bubble is going to burst when China moves off of the dollar as a currency.
Yeah.
Offers its own reserve currency. Because if you think about back in 2008, 2009, what was the crash? It was when the big mortgage bankers declared their bankruptcy and declared the default rates and things like that. It was one thing that got the dominoes to start falling, right? And it was related to the bubble or the weakness in the economy. Right. What is the weakness right now in our economy? It's the government spending, right? It's that there are people willing to buy our bonds. There are people willing to bet on America being able to pay our debts.
Right.
Well, when does that stop? When a country like China makes a point to say, hey, we're no longer doing it. And then every other country's, we're not going to buy bonds anymore.
Right.
And then that's what, so I think I don't know when that's going to happen, but I think that may be the way it does happen, if that helps.
Yeah, I've heard some theories, and this is just a theory, and I don't know, don't take my advice here, but I've heard some theories that China is getting things in place and targeting a move like what you're describing, Matt, before or right around when they host the Olympics. And I think it's early 2022 is when they host the Olympics. And they've got some things in play for their digital yuan and all kinds of stuff. I've heard a theory. It's just a theory. But just want to say that that's something that I've heard. So
interesting. Take
it for what it's worth. Probably not worth much, but they are hosting the Olympics in 2022. That'd be a nice time to roll out their dominance, you would think.
I mean, yeah, and that's why they want to do it. There's actually a big move right now to boycott China because of the human rights abuses and all the different things that they've been doing. Like releasing a virus to the world and lying about it on purpose or not. So it'd be interesting to see if there's any momentum on that to move it away, because China's pretty much paid off all of the world leaders, so I don't think that's going to happen. But we'll see about that. That would be crazy times. Indeed.
It sure would. I think it's worth it for everybody to do some research and figure out how you in your particular situation can defend yourself in the face of economic uncertainty and a little bit of a chaotic. That would be a chaotic situation for Americans in particular.
It would be very chaotic.
So I would suggest that now is the time, and I'm not smart enough to tell everybody what to do. I can only do what I know how to do. You know what I mean? And anyway,
this is one of the things I was thinking about. I guess I can announce this now. I'm moving down to Cape Coral sometime in the next couple of months, and one of the things we're doing is building a Christian community, or trying to build it. We're rolling out a K through 12 school, a classical education private school.
Amazing.
We have IOPT seminary from founders. We have the church. and then I'm going to be building local businesses and things like that. So just, hey, and if you're interested in looking for a place to move, check out Cape Coral and come help us build this vision. But one of the things I've been thinking about a lot is how do we protect ourselves from a local perspective? We're going to have this local community. And one of the things I was thinking about, and this is probably way over my head because I need someone a lot smarter than me to think about this, but with the velocity of money, the idea that a dollar spent can be multiplied from how much it's used. Yep. And because of inflation, because like if what we're talking about happens, inflation's going to be a thing, but also interest rates are going to be really high as well. And so it's going to be harder to lend. It's good. Things are going to be costing a lot outside of our ability to buy a lot of different things. And there may be a very real thing of either not being able to use a currency or needing to create value within the community.
Right.
And I almost wonder if there was an ability to have enough services controlled within a community that you could create that value of currency. Maybe it's your own currency or through trading or some sort of like that, where that you could almost be hedged against it that way, where you don't need to buy from Amazon because you have your local farmers market from farmers in your church. You don't need to worry about plumbing costs and electrical costs because you have those people at your church. And maybe it's not Bitcoin, maybe it's not the dollar, but some other exchange or some kind of credit system, kind of go back old school. Yeah. And I don't know exactly all the details. I still got to work with all that out. But that, I think, could be a very viable way that in church communities can survive with each other, because you have an extra level of accountability as Christians to each other, where I think you're able to be more free with your lending. You're more free with putting things on I forget, what is it, like the old school way you would have, like in some towns, you wouldn't pay with a credit card, but they almost had like a tally of your tab, like a bar tab, but
they
it
had
was
a credit system. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
So maybe that's something that we could do instead, is what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
So I think that's something we need to explore a lot more.
Cape Coral, man. There you go. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm not just saying that for Cape Coral. I'm saying wherever we are, like with your church communities, and like there's going to be times where we're going to have to build locally and kind of just be our own governments, I think, if things really get that bad, in my opinion. So Edward said he got a VA loan for 1.75. Yeah, and super low.
That's pretty amazing.
And that's that helps with inflation too, I'll tell you. Raising the minimum wage, low interest rates, and a lot of printing. I mean, they're really trying to get inflation to kick in here.
I mean, like the VA or the bank is losing on that one, inflation wise.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
What does it matter for them? That doesn't really matter.
That's the other thing that I've been thinking about. I don't know if I talked about it on this show, but people ask me all the time, like, what do you do to hedge against inflation? I mean, obviously, real estate is a great way to do that. But another thing is and this is counterintuitive. I know it's Dave Ramsey who wouldn't approve of this, but if you take out loans,
borrow money,
you borrow money for assets that generate revenue. Right. That's how you hedge, because you will be able to raise prices as inflation raises, and if you have a fixed loan, that loan gets cheaper and cheaper as well. So you're basically burning the candle on both ends, making money on both sides. So that's another thing to think about. Not financial advice, for entertainment purposes only, I guess I should qualify.
Yeah. So that's the traditional kind of thing to do. I mean, you buy assets with borrowed money that's cheap. Mm-hmm. My worry about that is I know in Germany, this is something that happened where when they went into hyperinflation, not normal inflation, but hyperinflation, they got a new currency and they revalued everything, and they helped out their buddies that were lenders to keep their loans actually being valuable. I don't think that you need to worry necessarily about hyperinflation. I'm not worried about hyperinflation. I think that's if it happened, it would be a ways off. That's not financial advice. It's just my opinion. Mm-hmm. But yeah, traditionally, if you know that they're going to inflate the currency, that would be the thing to do. Buy a house, buy a rental property, buy any kind of asset that produces income, and you'll end up better off in the end.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like hyperinflation, I don't think there's anything you can do. I mean, really, it's you really make sure you have your guns loaded and protect yourself from the mobs at that point.
Yeah, there's really not much you can do. It's total chaos.
Yeah. I mean, maybe some things you plan for is, hey, can you grow a garden right now where you have food, where like at the very least you have food and water and you can just kind of sit until the crazy goes away. But like seriously, there's no like financial advice that I know of that survives hyperinflation. It decimates the economy completely.
Yeah, it's destruction. I mean, it's definitely it's a curse from God. Like God's decided to destroy your country financially, right, if that's what's going on.
Yeah. Speaking of cursing, we've talked about the Polish pastor, right, who was yelling, "Get out, get out." Yeah, we did. And then we talked about how the restaurants were doing it and stuff. So I don't know if we talked about the second time they came. They came back a second time with a SWAT team, and the Polish pastor shouted them out again. Well, last week, the police there, or whatever they call them, what do they call? There's a certain name for them.
Yeah, there is a name for them. What is it?
Bounties, mountaineers.
Whatever,
it doesn't matter. They now have an arrest warrant issued for the pastor if he doesn't let them come in and disrupt the service. So I think, and he talked about that on Twitter. So I would just encourage for all of us who aren't in the area to be praying for them as they go through this. But he's just saying, I'm going to go to jail. I'm probably going to go to jail. I'm not backing down, which good for him. And if you are anywhere close to Calgary, which I don't know what side of Canada that's on, you need to be there. We need to have solidarity, and they need to arrest 100 Christians or 200 Christians. They need to fill the jail up with Christians. Would you agree with that?
They're so insane up there at this point. And yeah, I totally think so. I think that you want to get your brothers back, you join them, and I think there's a very good chance they won't arrest you. They'll back down again, but they might. And it's not the end of the world. If there was ever a time where it was totally legitimate to be arrested, it's now. You know what I mean? Now's a good time to get arrested. It's now as good a time as any. I've been arrested before for bad things, and it's not the end of the world. And I think you should consider yourself lucky and honored to be arrested for the Lord. So that's what I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And someone was asking, how's Joe Boots' church? And you may be thinking of James Coates.
Yeah, James Coates. It must be, yeah.
Yeah, it must be James Coates. From the last I've heard, and I haven't heard much, the gates are still around the church, and I believe they're just meeting outdoors. So that's the last I've heard about that. But I believe they're like 150 miles from each other, this Polish pastor's church. They're in the same Providence or whatever. Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Can you imagine living in a place living in a place where it's supposed to be civilized, and they think that they need to send the SWAT team so that you won't have church for a cold virus that's going around?
Right.
Like, how would, like, I don't even know. It's insane in the United States too. Don't get me wrong, but like, that's another level of insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's crazy, man. What do you even do? Like, how do you even operate normally? Like, I don't know.
You don't. I mean, that's part of the curse, right? When you are acting this foolish and you are doing these things, your economy collapses.
This guy's saying Joe Boots' church got raided as well. You know Joe Boots?
No, I don't. That's why I'm Googling him right now. Ezra Institute.
He's a solid dude. He's one of these. I don't know if he's a Christian Reconstructionist, but he's one of these, like post-mill type guy. He's like in our circles.
Okay.
Joe Boots. He's a good guy.
Canada?
And yeah, I guess he's Canadian as well. They raided his church also. It's just so crazy, man. Like eventually you gotta stand up. Eventually you gotta stop taking this. It's like when you're in high school and then the bully's bullying, maybe you give in a few times, but eventually you're going to have to stand up for yourself.
Yeah. It's actually more like the teachers are bullying. It's like you're in high school and the teachers are picking on you.
It's true.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we need to stand up and shame on everyone else who has their churches continually be closed. It's not even just that you should be ashamed that you're not obeying God, but you're leaving out your brothers and sisters to dry. Totally. And letting these Nazi fascists, who cares what they're actually called, that's what they are, Nazi fascists, to come in and bust down and intimidate people worshiping God. Like, this is the ultimate disintegration of a civilized society. These are thugs and they're pagans, and this is the last straw. Like there's nothing left after being able to just come in and break down the church. There's nothing left to stop anything from happening. It's all lawless at this point.
This is the time, man. This is the time to show who you serve. You know what I mean? It's just that simple. Yep. And we've talked about this so many times. It's long past time for that. And so at this point, you just have to understand you're a state church. You don't worship the Lord. You worship the state. And that's all there is to it at this point. It's April of 2021. Amen. It's over. Your leeway and your wiggle room, we've given you so long. It's been a year. If you're still not meeting and it's been over a year, then why don't you just stay shut forever? That you do us all a favor and stop pretending and just have a little club, whatever you want to have. You want to have a Christian club? Have a Christian club. Nobody's gonna try to stop you. You can have a Bible study if you want to. I'm not gonna try to stop you. But stop pretending you're a church at this point.
Amen. Yeah, it'd go better for you in eternity's sake if you stop preaching and having this fake religion that you're espousing, where you bow down to the church and you listen to the church and have the church direct your worship service.
Yeah, man. Your brothers are being raided and fined and jailed. It's like, and you're just like, yeah, we'll just do Zoom church. Yeah, you gotta get Romans 13, man. You gotta respect the government. Gotta.
And our elderly, there's a 0.001 chance they may die.
By the way, all these guys were marching with Black Lives Matter in August last year, man. All these guys. Yeah, George Floyd, though, we got to come out, go support the team. Yeah, you're supporting the team, all right. Bunch of communists out there, man.
And yeah, exactly right. A bunch of communists. It's like there's the Bible verse, choose this day who you'll serve. I know me and my house will serve the Lord. And they're like, nah, we're going to serve the government. We're going to serve man.
The time has come. This is that J.D. Hall article that I did a video on. It's so true. It's never been easier to know what to do publicly as a Christian. It's never going to get easier than this. No. All you do is you go to church. You don't put you can put a mask on if you want, but you don't require it. You do what you got to do. You worship. You sing psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs. You listen to the preaching. You gather with your brothers. You greet each other with hugs and holy kisses and all that stuff. It's easy to know what to do. You go to church. That's what you do.
Yep, absolutely right. You declare Jesus is King.
I'll never forget. I'm sorry to interrupt, but Knox was when they interviewed Lehman. He was saying Lehman was talking about his little theory of cultural capital, whatever, and Knox made such a small point, and it was so profound, man. It hit me deep when he said, Lehman was like, yeah, we got to keep our cultural capital for for some fundamentals, and Knox is, you know how he is. He's very agreeable, so he's like, yeah, that's true, dog. He says that's true, but you would think that meeting church on Sunday would fall into that category. You would think, right? Like having a worship service might fall into the fundamental category. I don't know.
maybe. I don't know.
He says it in such a nice way, though. Like you can't get mad at him. But you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Chocolate Knox is kind of that guy where he puts his arm around you and he makes you feel like you're a homie. And then he shanks you with the knife on the other side. And you're just out of breath. You have no words because he's got you.
I'm totally with you, but meeting for church.
And by the way, what to do with sex with animals or humans?
Oh yeah, he just gets you, man. He just gets you. He's sneaky like that.
He's so sneaky, man. Yeah, I love that guy so much. And it's not going to get easier, like you said. I mean, just thinking about what we've learned this week about what the government in the United States is even doing to us. The post office is spying on all of our social media accounts. They just raided. You didn't hear about that?
They can't get me a package in less than 3 weeks, but they can definitely have time.
Well, now you know why. They're probably opening it up and making sure they reseal it and just they have a whole team of people spying on our social media accounts, conservative social media accounts, and they're reporting it to the other agencies because there's actual laws with the other agencies of, like the CIA, they can't spy and work on the United States soil. So their loophole is, hey, no one thought the post office would spy on people, so there's no law saying they can't. Let's have them do it, and then they'll transfer the information to the FBI, to the CIA, and all these others.
Well, of course they're doing
quite
that.
Genius, right?
Of course they're doing that. Listen. I have a company that I've bought a couple things from recently, and they have this shipping method where they get to choose what the method is, but it's free. So like, in certain items they'll go with FedEx, certain items will go with USPS. And I remember I bought something and then I forgot, oh man, I got to buy something else too. So I made another order in the same day. And they chose USPS and they chose FedEx because I don't know how they choose. They just chose.
Okay.
The FedEx thing was there a day and a half later. I'm still waiting for the USPS. They were both about the same weight, it was just about the same thing. So, of course, why wouldn't I expect that they would just be spending all of their time checking out Gab to see if I said something anti-Semitic?
That's right. Well, now that we know the post office is listening, can you please check on AD's package and see if it got lost?
Please.
Please. But also, I don't know if you saw this, Mayor Rudy Giuliani's apartment got raided, and so did another Trump's lawyers, Joe DeGeneva's wife, 2 Trump lawyers. They took all of their electronic devices except for Hunter Biden's laptop. They left that. Is that classic?
Of course.
Yeah, they can't admit that to evidence. Then it's on record that they have it. So
unreal.
Then there was a bunch of rallies down here in Florida. A bunch of podcasters were going to come down and speak, and they're all put on no-fly lists, and they weren't allowed to fly.
I heard about that too. Yep,
you heard about
that.
So,
one. Yeah.
And I say that all not because it's significant that it relates somehow that they're Christians and they're getting persecuted like we are, but that stuff's going to come to us as Christians too.
Of course.
Don't you think for a minute Christians aren't going to be put on a no-fly list? Don't think for a second they're not going to come in and raid our stuff. They're it's coming.
You don't even have to like the people that were put on the no-fly list. It was like what's his face, Fuentes, and like some of those other guys. Like, you don't even have to like those guys. It's like the fact that they're just doing this, and it's with relative impunity. There's no one's really raising up a big stink. You know what I mean? Maybe on Gab they are, but pretty much nowhere else. You got to understand, like, you can't run a country this way. You can, but it's going to end up like China. You know what I mean? So like, it's just totally insane. And take steps to protect yourself, man. You might not be able to fly, when you want to. Mm-hmm. Like who's to say that Fight Laugh Feast doesn't end up on, Anti-Defamation League's list of evil, bigoted, because this has happened before. American Vision, Gary DeMar's organization is on the Southern Poverty Law Center's hate list and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. This has happened to Christian organizations before that obviously aren't haters.
Right.
So who's to say Fight Laugh Feast? So all of a sudden you post on social media, hey, can't wait to go to the Fight Laugh Feast rally. It's going to be great. I'm going to see my dogs. And then the USPS says, oh, wait, hold on, there's extremists here. They're extremists. And then they message, the FAA, whatever. And all of a sudden, your ticket's no good here.
Right.
You got to protect yourself, man. Like these are luxuries that we may not have forever. Your persecution complex. Yeah, AD, you got to persecute. It's already happening. It happens to Nick Fuentes. You don't care. But if, Nick Fuentes there's not that many degrees of difference between him and you, no matter where you stand. All you got to do is piss off the right people, and you're Nick Fuentes now.
Yep, absolutely. And you remember like a year ago when no-fly lists were a conspiracy theory?
Yep.
And now they're the thing. And no one knows who gets put on them, why. No one knows how to get off of them. And you don't even know you're on them until you go try to fly. And the real danger of it is not just an inconvenience like, oh, you might as well just go drive. Just get used to driving. I see even people joking about it being like Vegas vacation, which that is like my worst nightmare, by the way, is having a Vegas vacation road trip. My dad used to always buy things old and cheap, thinking he got a great deal, but it always broke and you'd have to spend more money than buying something new. We never got to our destinations. Never got to our destinations whatsoever. Like we'd go to Tennessee, we got to Texas. That's as far as we would get sometimes and get towed back. Yeah. But anyways, what happens when you're on a no-fly list? Or you don't take the vaccine and you can't get into a hotel. Right. Well, what happens to your job when you have to fly? What happens when you have to go to a conference? What happens when you have to go see a client? Like our worlds are going to be really confined. Like they're not going to make you take a vaccine from what I can see so far, but their companies that are in their pocket and aligned with them will, or they won't give you a job and you'll lose your job. Well, what happens when Americans can't have jobs? Already 70% of small businesses are closed and won't reopen because they shut down the economies and all the billions went to Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. But you're not going to get a job with them either because you're going to travel. You're going to have to bow down and kiss the LGBTQ ring. And you're going to have to take the vaccine. All of these different things. So what's left for us? And that's, again, going back to our local community and why it's important to build up jobs in our commerce as well. Right?
No, you're so right. That idea of the local community, even if you can't perfect it, anytime soon, that's okay. That's okay. The more things you can take away from them as far as being able to cancel you in that way, the better. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to start. You don't have to go from being a city dweller. I live in an apartment with like a day's worth of food in my refrigerator at all times. You don't have to go from that to homesteader. It doesn't have to be that way. You just have to start taking steps to get ahead. You got to start taking steps to take a little bit of that power back. Look, I'll just use myself as an example because I know myself the best. Like I'm not self-sufficient. I'm just not. I know that. But I've taken some steps to be a little more off their grids as I could. And I've done certain things. You guys know what the kinds of things I've done. I've bought chickens. I've got a little bit of land. I'm closer to a community. I've got a church with farmers in it, and I got contractors and plumbers, people that I know that can help me out if I need it. I've got people that I know that, Matt, you were talking about, like you put it on my tab kind of thing. I got guys that I could have a tab with if I needed a tab. You know what I mean? Luckily, God's blessed me in a way I don't need to have a tab like that. But if I ever needed it, I know that I could get someone, hey, can you help me out? Help me fix this furnace, put it on my tab. There's probably dudes that would do it for me. You know what I mean? So, guys, this is it's important to have a church, man. A church with real people in it, real men in it that'll help you out in a pinch, that you can rely on. And it's never been more important. It's always important, but it's never been more important than it is right now. It's you need to have people you can count on. Matt, I'm assuming you're gonna go to Founders, right? Or what's the church called?
It's Grace Baptist Church.
Grace Baptist, right. Dude, like you're walking into a situation where you've got a solid church. You're walking into a situation where you've got men that are stand-up guys that if you needed something, they'd be there. If they needed something, they could count on you, that kind of thing.
Right.
That is so valuable. It is so valuable to have that. And it's worth moving for.
Absolutely. Especially in the times we live in. And then also, just to say along with that, my pastor here where I live right now, and the Presbyterian church I'm going to, we have head of household meetings once a month. And I would highly recommend that. And that is where all of the men get together and we talk about what does it mean to be like a real man? What does it talk to be like it's good to be a man? Like the things that they talk about, like Hard Man Podcast, Eric Kahn, I think that's what his is. It's like, what does that mean? And then how do we do that in our local community? How do we take care of the needs of the church and what's going on? And how do men come together and solve these problems? Because these are the people that are going to defend against the state coming to take our kids. This is what it's going to defend when we don't have food anymore because the supply chain was broken. And we're going to figure out how to provide for us as a community together. And so having those things now before the disasters happen is important because it's giving you time to develop the framework to be able to solve those bad problems coming up. You can't just start it during the disaster. You have to do it beforehand.
This is not doomsday prepping. This is being yes. That's what I was about to say. I'm trying to think of it's just regular life. It's just preparing for what's to come. You don't know what's to come. And so you want to have things in place or people in place that you could count on if you needed to. That's what's when you think about it. If you've got a close knit family and there's not brokenness there, whatever. Like my brother knows that if he was ever in a financial situation, he could call me up and I'd Bitcoin him some money right away. Not Bitcoin, but you know what I mean. But
I'd put UPS silver in the mail.
There you go. It'd be there in UPS, not USPS.
No,
UPS.
not USPS. Yes.
So like in a family like that, and my mother needed something or whatever, she could call me. If I needed something, I'd call my dad. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. And you can have that in a church community too. And now's the time to make those plans. Now's the time to make those connections, because things are relatively calm. I posted on Gab the other day. It feels like the calm before the storm, and everyone was commenting, "Were you insane? It's like it's crazy right now." And it was supposed to be tongue in cheek. Yeah, it is crazy, but I feel like it's going to get crazier as time goes on. 100%. And so the time to plan is now, man. Matt, I like it, and I know that you're a bit of a conspiracy theorist. But the point is, it's not doomsday prepping, but it is being, a person that thinks ahead. This is something that God has forced his people into all the way from the beginning. They had to prepare for Sabbath. They had to prepare for Sabbath years. They had to prepare for all this stuff. And it's not foolish to plan ahead. It's actually very wise. I think that there's a reason why people try to make doomsday preppers like a joke, like a byword, because they want you to always be living in that moment. They always want you to be paycheck to paycheck kind of thing. That's a stupid way to live if you can avoid it.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, yeah, you should we're at a point right now in our lives where if you are seeing people just being lambasted and name calling and shamed, that you should probably be questioning, why is that happening? And what is really the wisdom in what they're doing, and why wouldn't other people want them to be doing that? And then also, there's ways to do this in wise ways where you're not like the doomsday prepper that has the bunker in the ground and things like that. For example, if something wise to do would be have farmland in case the supply chains break or if something happens, like another COVID where everyone gets shut down and no one has money anymore, you lose your job. Hey, you'll still be able to grow food for yourself.
Yep.
But it would be also wise. Hey, you can grow that food now, learn how to do it before you need it. And you can turn that into a side business until you need it. You can go to a farmer's market. You can sell. So there's ways to do this where even if nothing bad happens, you're prepared and you could make a living off of it at the same time. That's what wisdom is.
That's right, man. Right? You have a small garden right now, and it's not going to make you a millionaire, but it'll supplement your family's food. You're going to eat it anyway, so you learn, and then maybe you grow it. Maybe you can turn it into a side business, like you said. And there's no downside there. There's no downside at all. And then you who knows what happens at that point. But that stuff that it's really you're talking about investing in yourself. Learning how to do these things now while things are relatively calm. It's a smart idea. There's no question about it. And your
community, forget the side business. How many people in your church are struggling and need food? Helping the homeless. There are things that you can give this food away to and share the gospel message with at the same time you're preparing and putting yourself in a better position. That's the wisdom we need as Christians, I think.
I love it, man. The thing that you move into Cape Coral and everything that's going on there, it's so exciting, man. And I know you kind of half joke that I should move to Florida, but I'll tell you what, man, it's attractive. It's attractive to consider that as an option. And I like New England. I always tell you that, but honestly, if I had to move somewhere, I probably would move somewhere down to Florida or something like that. By the way, I'd be
Don't tease me.
I'd be like, I wouldn't be a minority anymore down there. It'd be great. You'd be the minority at that point.
I know. I'd have to have you vouch for me for things.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. No, I'm not half kidding when I want you to move down here. I really do. I just say it in a joking way.
I know.
So I can say it more often without you getting offended.
I don't get offended ever. I think Florida's cool. You're not the only one who tries to get me to move to Florida. We've got a mutual friend. I used to call him the cigarette smoking man that always tell me to go move down to Florida. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. O'Fallon.
Yeah, O'Fallon, right. Oh, man. Yeah, he's up. I shouldn't say where he's at. But yeah, he's somewhere in Florida in an undisclosed location.
I'm not going to say where he's at either, but I haven't talked to him in a while. Maybe I'll give him a call.
Yeah, you should. I haven't talked to him in a bit either. He did come out with a new YouTube with Jane.
I saw that. Lindsay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's even more depressing than the first one. So.
You can't watch this stuff too much, otherwise you get too depressed.
Yeah. Jacob is taunting me and saying, "Hey, Matt, when is the rapture?" quote unquote. So I take it you're post-mill, Jacob. And just For the record, I'm 50-50 on the rapture. 50-50 on the rapture. And because there are times in the Bible where a rapture happens. Enoch, Moses.
Valid. That's valid.
Right.
Enoch did just get
and there's
taken off.
reasons they're there. No, I know it could not. I mean, there's not like a clear scripture that says it is happening, but I'm just saying there's evidence in the Bible where there could possibly be
there have been raptures, and so you're just saying, hey, possibility.
Listen,
I know where you came from, Calvary Chapel. So you being 50-50 is effectively you denying it. Like that's horrible.
I might not be let into a Calvary Chapel again.
So you've come a long way. 50-50 is a long way.
Yeah. Yeah, Moses was raptured. He got caught. They took him up and they didn't find his body.
He was buried by God, I thought.
Yeah, that's what they mean by rapture. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, but buried by God is not saying that he was dug into the dirt. And then we see him in the transfiguration. Kind of interesting. Just saying.
Man, your pastor needs to set you straight. That's all I'm going to
say. He's pre-mill too, which is funny. I never thought Presbyterians were pre-mill.
Good for him.
He's a historic pre-mill. I don't know what he thinks about the rapture, though. I haven't talked about that with him.
Probably doesn't like it.
I did. He found out that you do not give your kids communion. He wants to talk to you about that someday too.
Yeah. So that's so funny because did you tell him that I'm like basically there, but like not quite?
Yeah, I said he just needs you to push him over the edge. Basically,
yeah,
he's being a Baptist with communion.
If he could probably push you over the edge.
He's really convincing. He's been talking to me a lot about infant baptism.
Yeah,
and he's using arguments that no one else has ever used with me, which makes it even more convincing to me because I already have my defenses for the things I've heard before.
For the typical stuff. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But he was like bringing out the Red Sea crossing. He's like, that's the biggest type of
baptism,
a baptism. Yep. And who went through that?
Everyone. It was sprinkling everybody. Dude, the CREC knows, man. I heard that from a CREC pastor too.
Really?
Yeah. When I went to a CREC church in Brooklyn, and I heard that one from him. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, those CREC guys are stepping up their baptism
They're
game.
Sneaky, man. They're sneaky.
Yeah. Mr. Scarpet, Matt's helping build a community. Has he gone post-mill? I'm functionally post-mill. I want to be post-mill. I'm hoping that post-mill is true. Maybe I'm like a AD on being baptizing his or giving his kids communion. Excuse me.
Yeah. Probably very similar.
Yeah, I want to be convinced. Like I'm right there. I want things to get better. Oh yeah.
Good show, man. This has been fun. Good show.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm AD. You should move down. You can help me build the businesses, and we can have a lot of fun with the Baptist Presby thing. That'll be good. Maybe. Like, give me a percentage. See. Like, what is the percentage chance that you come down?
Very low right now, but I think that things could change very drastically, very quickly, depending on how the United States goes.
Got it. See, this is more reason why I want a great reset. AD is going to come down.
That's right. It'll be a great reset for AD as well, right?
Oh man, yeah. Come on, man. We're gonna have the classical education school for your kids to come to.
That's cool, man. That's cool.
Yeah, we have the church community. We're gonna have businesses.
Put it this way: there's 100% more chance that I would move to Florida than Idaho.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So you get that. You got that going for you.
Yes. All right. We'll keep on working. Everyone, please send your P.O. Box postcards to AD saying move to Florida. And please, no more messages about the chemtrails. We got it. We're good. Probably the same for digital currency. We don't understand it.
I don't get it. I don't
get it. But any other topics, feel free to reach out. If you are interested in moving down to Cape Coral, I want all the Christians to come down. I would love all of you guys to move down, not just AD. If you want to know more about that, you can email me, matt@howtobuildatent.com. We can talk about that more and see how that could be a workable solution because we need local communities. So, yeah, think about that. Pray about it. Yeah, I think that's good. I think we're doing a good show. All right. Thank you, everyone, for supports us at patreon.com/reformgelical. You pay for us to be able to stream and all this stuff. Really appreciate it. Thanks for everyone who joins us live. fantastic show. For all of those who are listening to the podcast on Fridays, catch us Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. We'll talk to you next time. Jesus is King. God bless.
God bless.